Hey, this is Matt and welcome back to the channel, guys. I'm going to be sharing with you my thoughts on the recent news about Sebastian Vettel's hair loss story, and this thing is getting like a lot of publicity from the media, and not in the best way. What are the things he should have done in the past to prevent this scenario from happening, and what are the best options for him right now to make his hair look better, close to what he had maybe in 2010. So these are some things that I'm going to be sharing in this video. So if it's something that interests you, make sure you stay tuned, and let's start with the video.
This video is brought to you by GoFiber Hair Building Fibers. Pick up your free sample and get instant hair confidence. Start your transformation today.
Hey, welcome back again. You're watching my hair loss and hair transplant related channel, which is all about stopping our hair loss, getting our hair back, and hair transplant. In this video, it's going to be more like the hair loss story of Sebastian Vettel, and he's been losing hair for like 10 years because even back when he was like 23, like 10 years ago, 2010, 2011, I already noticed him being like in NW2 because I was watching like F1, and I at the time actually I was also having like a similar hair loss pattern. It was like when in my 18s, 17s, and I was already having these edges, and I was comparing myself kind of to him, and we also had like similar hair color, so I was like, yeah, he's also losing hair. Now, what's interesting about this hair loss story is that his most aggressive hair loss actually started to kick in his early 30s. Here he's already probably NW2 to NW3, but because of his hair type and texture, he's able to camouflage it very well. By the time of his late 20s, it still doesn't seem like he's losing a lot of hair. Now in 2017, things started to get a little bit worse, especially with his corners. They're more obvious, they're thinned out. We can see how very thin that hair on the whole frontal third actually is. When the sun kind of shines through that hair, it's very wispy hair already. Another interview from 2018, it still seems like his mid-scalp and crown is like relatively thick. And this was like two and a half years ago from this video. I'm asking like how aggressive his hair loss must have been for the last like two and a half years. It's pretty drastic, right? It's also obvious that he didn't take any medication, because if he would have been on medication, I mean, that wouldn't have happened, okay? Here's like a press conference from 2018 when he was like really like camouflaging his recession very, very well. And you can see like he was focusing on making the front look as dense and thick as possible. But here when he like tilts his head down, you can see like patches in the mid-scalp and also in the crown area. So he obviously just tried to make the front as good as possible for the photos, because the camera guys from the press and newspapers are going to be shooting pictures from the front only. And then from this situation, just 1 year later, October 2019, and we already see him on a way to become a NW5. We can see like a very, very obvious diffuse hair loss on the mid-scalp and crown. And here in 2020, in this video, it looks similar, but it probably got even worse, because then he decided to buzz his head, and it looked like this. So it must have gotten even worse from 2019. Some people actually claim that this could be a hair transplant, and that's why he cut his hair short. If this would be a hair transplant, it means that he needed to be somewhere like 1 month to 3 months after the operation, because after the third month the hair starts already growing. So it needed to be somewhere between the first and third month. Now, for this to be the first, or somewhere between the first and third month after the hair transplant, we would have already noticed some erythema, some redness, some inflammation on the recipient area, because it wouldn't heal that quick, and his recipient or potential recipient area, the frontal third, it just looks totally normal. No signs of redness, of inflammation. And even if he had done a hair transplant of that area, we would have also seen some residues from the transplanted hair, because obviously the transplanted hair will not just automatically grow after your transplant. It will, but then it will fall out between the week number 2 and month number 2, maybe 2.5 months even after the transplant. So usually not all of that hair falls out. Maybe 20, maybe 30% of the transplanted hair will stay on the scalp. We would have seen like some odd hairs like growing on different areas of his frontal third if this would have been a hair transplant. So this is definitely not a hair transplant. He just buzzed it off. Now my first suggestion for this guy would be like, shave that stuff, just shave it off. I mean, obviously, if you don't care, you're confident, you're F1 driver, wearing the helmet on your head half of your life anyways, so you don't have to do anything at the end of the day. The second thing he could do, just place a hair system on top, like that. Easy. He's already perfect, perfect hair for it on the sides. The only thing he needs to do is to shave everything on top and just place some hair system on it and see how that works out. But I don't know, with the constant wearing a helmet, it's gonna get very hot. I don't know if it's gonna be good for hair system. So in my opinion, shaving his head would be the number one thing he should try. After looking at his donor area, even hair transplant wouldn't be like a bad idea. Let's be honest. I mean, he has good donor hair. It could be very well used for the FUT as well as FUE, but before you do that, or before you consider that, get on medication, okay? Finasteride, really advisable. FDA approved stuff, minoxidil finasteride, really advisable. So if you are in a similar situation, guys, and you want to avoid ending up like Sebastian, make sure you get on medication, as easy as that. You start with the FDA approved stuff and you see if it works well for you before you try to even dig into some, non-approved stuff, some experimental treatments, kitchen sink treatments and stuff like that. It's much easier to start with the FDA approved stuff because there is a lot of evidence of its efficacy, of its safety. And also if you have like a similar type of hair to Sebastian, and you are thinning already on the front and corners, make sure that you switch up your haircut once in a while and you also get like a shorter haircut, so you can maybe grab your hair or feel your hair kind of on the crown and mid scalp, or maybe look it up with a mirror whether it's not thinning. Because guys like Sebastian with this type of hair, sometimes they do the mistake that they keep that hair growing very long and then they feel like they're not losing it on the mid scalp and crown, but in reality they are. The hair is just too long, it's wavy, it's like this sheep hair, I call it like sheep hair, and it just kind of restricts you from properly, seeing your hair loss like for what it is. And that's something that happened to Sebastian as well. He was just going and he just let hair loss like just the free ride and free space, and it just went to like Norwood 5 as we see today. So if you have this type of hair, I would highly advise you to track your hair loss much better than Sebastian did, and really switch up your haircuts once in a while. Get that shorter haircut where you can really maybe 2-3 centimeters on top, where you can really feel the thickness of the hair much better with your hand, or maybe look it up with another mirror and check it out from the back. You have a mirror in your bathroom, and then you check it out with another mirror in your hand and see how the density kind of differs from the hair on the sides. And sometimes you will be surprised how that density may be much less on the crown and mid scalp, and that's a good sign to do something more about your hair loss. I mean, if you are not on FDA approved medication, that's the time to get on it. If you are already on FDA approved medication and it's not working, then that's the time to add some non-approved stuff. I also made a video on like best way to manage your hair loss. It was like the best way to manage your hair loss in 2020, but it also applies to this year. It's the same, and there are some cool strategies what you should do, for hair loss, or if finasteride stops working, or if minoxidil stops working, what you should do as another step, like upgrade and stuff like that. So I'm gonna link this video here so you have it. I hope you enjoyed this one. If you don't know my channel, if this is the first video I've ever watched, there are 2 things you should do if you want to get your hair back as somebody whose hair loss already progressed way too much and there is no chance to recover that hair loss with any medication. You can check out my Facebook group, Hair Transplant Experiences, which is a free group where you can exchange your experience with other guys who have done hair transplants at different spots in the world, in different clinics. You can inform yourself there as well. I'm doing live videos and regularly posting there also, so check it out. Then number 2, you should check out my website, mattdominance.com, where you can get my free ebook 5 things I wished I had known before my hair transplant, which also summarizes the not only mine but also overall mistakes that guys usually do throughout their hair transplant research, things that end up with, you know, over harvested donor area, poor hair transplant, poor results like poor hair regrowth, unnaturalness on the hairline and stuff like that. So if you want to avoid these things, then make sure you read that free ebook. And that was pretty much it for this video. Looking forward to see you in another one.